So far, police have made 52 arrests, but that number could go up. As of tonight, 31 people are facing formal charges, including riot, burglary, and disorderly conduct. One of those suspects, a woman who goes by Meatball on social media. Police say she used her online platform to tell others which stores to target.
Well, she's just doing the work of the Democrat Party, and you know, this is what they do. They loot, they burn, they steal, they plunder. They're like the Visigoths. The Democrat Party. Well, happy Thursday to you, and welcome back. More madness, of course. We had the Republican debate last night, the candidates debate. And President Trump, with his speech and his counter-programming, he was live on Newsmax. And Fox News, I was watching both. How do you watch both? Well, not very well. It's like multitasking. When you multitask, you don't do anything particularly well. Everything suffers, and that happened to me last night between President Trump on Newsmax and doing his event, which was, classic President Trump event, and then an interview with President Trump, kind of a stand-up interview with a handheld microphone, but it was President Trump and it was Newsmax, and it was a good interview. The Republicans over on Fox News, there was a lot of yelling and talking over each other, and it was kind of unimpressive, and I think the general consensus today is that nobody won. Maybe President Trump won. The radical left-wing extremists are saying Joe Biden won because he didn't fall down a flight of stairs and bang his head and break a hip. As long as he doesn't break a hip, he's had a good day. That's a good day for Joe. Am I right about that? Good day for Joe Biden is a day where he doesn't break a hip because he's Joe Biden, and good thing he doesn't have to drive himself. I don't want to see that Corvette get all banged up and, might set more classified documents on fire. Something like that. You don't want that either. So lots of stuff. And the Democrats rioting and looting in Philadelphia last night again. So we've got the Republican debate, President Trump, of course. And today begins, it's day one in the House of Representatives of the Joe Biden impeachment inquiry hearings. And it begins with several experts who will be testifying today. And I think what their plan is for day one is to kind of sum up everything that they've been collecting over the last who knows how many months now. But all the LLCs and what is it now, $24 million. I think it's $24 million. And there are new text messages out about Hunter Biden running out of money and going to his Uncle James. And what are we going to do? I don't know. We'll go to your dad. And what a circle fest this whole thing is. Honestly, the Biden family just stinks. Rudy Giuliani broke up the mafia in New York, which is where, a lot of the mafia lived. And they were not as bad as the Democrats. Isn't that true? The mafia, not as bad as the Democrats, not as crooked, not as violent, didn't kill as many people. If the mafia were in charge, I think a lot of American cities would be a lot better off, including Washington, D.C. We crossed our 200th homicide threshold, and then how many more people got shot and killed? I was talking about it yesterday, and the Washington Post had the story that 200, and it's the first time we've reached that threshold in Washington, D.C. since 1997, when Joe Biden was middle-aged, and that's some time ago. And the newspapers, the papers, the Washington Post and so on, yesterday they actually had a front page story on all the murders. Today it moved back to the Metro sectional. It's not on, yesterday a sectional, today back to the Metro sectional. D.C. homicide count continues to climb. A picture of a 16-year-old kid with his mother there, and a teenager leaving school, and a 21-year-old bystander to a gunfight. Our city's latest victims of deadly shooting. And then I think there were 4 or 5 more people shot after they went to print last night at the Washington Post, because Baghdad is safer than major cities in the United States of America run by Democrats. And to say that there's a lot of black-on-black crime, you can't say that, right? would be understatement. And yet there is no leadership to be found anywhere in the so-called Democrat Party. Where's the Reverend Al Sharpton? Whereas, Jesse Jackson doesn't do a lot anymore. I think he's kind of retired. But who's in charge of this gunfight? Because somebody ought to be stepping up. I think Ukraine might be safer than Washington, D.C. or Chicago or Baltimore if you're, looking for a long and healthy and prosperous life. This was true during the Iraq War. If you were a young African-American man living in Chicago, you would increase your chances of living a long life by joining the Marine Corps and going to Iraq. That was an actual statistic because the Democrats run killing fields. Pol Pot, Cambodia, all that stuff. But it is absolutely tragic what's going on in our big cities. And stores are leaving, companies are leaving, people are leaving, taxpayers are leaving. Business owners are leaving, the jobs are leaving, the economy's leaving, and nobody's saying anything about it because our filthy, corrupt, rotten news media is just too busy sucking up to the Democrat Party and whatever they do. Hey, more shootings. That must be a good sign. Hey, smashing records and murder numbers this year. Yay, congratulations. And then, of course, all the illegal aliens sprawled out everywhere and the tens or hundreds of millions or billions being spent on the illegal aliens, depending on what your yardstick is. Just New York City, just Chicago, nationwide, and all these border cities, like New York and Chicago. And I got to tell you, and then our news media blames Republicans, along with Democrat members of Congress, who should probably be in prison just on principle, And since the game now is to put all your political rivals in prison, we should probably start focusing on that a bit, don't you think? And so a lot to get to today, and there's more too. The headline from the Daily Caller from the Republican debate last night, the second debate. It was the second Republican debate of this election cycle. Still more than a year away from Election Day because, the permanent campaign. It's about the permanent campaign that the left inflicted upon us. That is to say, the Democrat Party. Howard Dean bragging about creating the permanent campaign in the United States of America when he was DNC chair and he was governor and he was a Democrat presidential candidate and, the famous scream and all that stuff. But he bragged that he had inflicted the permanent campaign on the United States. And he thought that was exciting because it made us more like other countries that are inferior to ours.
Remember I talked about the permanent campaign? Well, before I got to the DNC, we didn't have a permanent campaign. You would campaign for 1 year when you had a candidate, and then if you didn't win, you wouldn't campaign for the next 3 years. No wonder we lose. Now we don't just have a permanent campaign for electing Democrats. We have a permanent campaign for influencing policy. It brings us a little closer to the European model.
It brings us a little closer to the European model, really, of the permanent campaign and strikes and riots and looting and arson. And yeah, you guys have brought us closer to the European model of, like 1933 in Munich. But never mind. You even brought Antifa back. That's where Antifa came from Germany in the 1930s. It's a terrorist group, and now it's part of the Democrat Party in the United States of America. But in any event, sacking and looting Philadelphia again last night too, because, justice. And they got this woman named Meatball out there who is leading the charge. She should get 150 years in prison for seditious conspiracy and, a lot of other things. But, since we have a two-tiered system of justice, I don't think that's likely to happen. Know what I'm talking about? So the Daily Caller headline on the Republican debate: cut mics, expensive curtains, offensively stupid questions. GOP debate falls flat. That's the headline at the Daily Caller. And Just the News, John Solomon's great organization. Lots of banter, but no breakout candidates at second GOP presidential debate. I think that's true from what I saw. Haley explodes on Ramaswamy. Nikki Haley explodes on Vivek Ramaswamy after TikTok remarks. And she said, Nikki Haley said to Vivek Ramaswamy, said, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber, which is, kind of a fun political line. But what a nasty, horrible business. Who would want to be in this business? Where this is what you go, you get on a national stage and hey, Where are your zingers? Do you have any good insults for people? Because that'd be good. And then Chris Christie. Christie goes after Trump, I'll leave that alone. If you keep skipping debates, we're going to call you Donald Duck. See, because he ducked the debate, son. His first name is Donald, so we're going to call you Donald Duck. He might have had like a third grader who came up with that one, because maybe he's got a grandson. Does he have grandson? I don't know. Came up with that. We'll call him Donald Duck because he ducked the debate. And this is kind of crazy. The Fox News Channel slashes ad prices for second debate as primary turns into snoozer. They're not expecting any big ratings because, Donald Trump's not there. He'd bring the ratings. But if he's not there, then really you want to watch, what they had last night. I watch it. It's my job. I'm guessing that the ratings are not going to be great. And Gavin Newsom showed up to the debate because he wanted to smile for the cameras and wink at the reporters and maybe see if he could get a little, get a little support from the media. Gavin Newsom says GOP debate was maybe a vice presidential debate at best. He says these guys are getting lapped, he said, by President Trump. So he looked at the polls, and he's not very clever, but he smiles for the cameras, and that matters more than anything in politics today. So President Trump, in the meantime, there was some shots back and forth, and some of them were a little bit of fun, and I'll see what I can get into on those. Trump says he doesn't see a potential VP pick among other GOP candidates. And he said, I don't think so. And that may or may not be the case, but it's the funny thing to say anyway. Also, I did a bit of looking, we got this radical extremist terrorist judge that is attacking President Trump. And they declared they found him liable in a civil case in New York. And they're trying to strip him of his right to do business in the state of New York. He can have no business licenses in the state of New York because they say he perpetrated fraud when he overvalued his real estate holdings. They say. This radical judge who's an extremist. This is the rhetoric. I have the words right. She's an extremist and a radical and a fanatic, and she should be barred. And President Trump said that. In fact, this is so crazy. President Trump yesterday said something about her facing consequences. And Jake Tapper on CNN, who's a former, I happen to be watching CNN, Jake Tapper, who's a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer who dated Monica Lewinsky, wink, wink. All right? That's what launched his journalistic career, as a matter of fact, his date with Monica Lewinsky. That's a true story. But Jake Tapper yesterday suggested on television that maybe Donald Trump should face some kind of maybe he should go to prison for suggesting that the judge is a hack, right? And if you say the judge is a hack at CNN, because they're communists, they think, well, maybe he could be arrested and charged with putting out a statement saying that she's a hack, because that could be a real danger to her. Yeah, CNN is a danger to the world every day. Also, what happened is CNN has the lowest ratings in their modern history, I think. There's even a story in the Washington Post today about how terrible the ratings are at CNN and how nobody's watching CNN. It's got to be kind of sad. They were once a powerhouse, a juggernaut, but now, no, nothing of the kind. But President Trump, of course, rallied in Detroit, rails against automakers, Democrats, and Biden, which is good stuff. And one of the stories I read is these hack judges, these hack leftists who are going after President Trump, saying that he overvalued his properties in order to get loans, because, that's his thing, right? And then they valued Mar-a-Lago at, about 1/15th of the actual, maybe 1/20th of the value of the, it's amazing, because they're corrupt people. They're probably criminals. They should probably be disbarred or whatever it is you do to these people. But wait till you hear this story about how they valued Mar-a-Lago and what liars they are, because they just want to lynch Trump. The Democrat Party and lynching. They have a long history of finding ropes and trees and minorities. That's the Democrat Party. So we got that coming up. A mad Democrat murderer from Baltimore was captured last night. I was talking about him yesterday. That's good. And newly released memos, pages and pages, with all kinds of details about the Biden family's corruption. And I got to tell you, the corruption that is loose in this country is like nothing I've ever seen. And what happened to the governor of Arizona when Joe Biden showed up? This is a weird one. We got gun stores and looting and meatballs and all kinds of Democrat Party stories. We are at 888-630-9625. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Booked by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Let's go to the telephones, because there are lots of nice people out there that didn't vote for Joe Biden and Hillary and Obama and don't want to wreck the country. Let's go to Mike calling from Gainesville, Virginia. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Happy Thursday morning, Chris Plant.
Thank you very kindly.
It seems to me that Nikki Haley misdelivered her zinger last night. She made Vivek's next ad for himself, in the sense that she said every time he speaks, he makes her feel dumber. Well, that's what's supposed to happen when someone makes you look stupid. You should feel dumber if you have any self-awareness.
Well, that's funny. Well, here's for people that didn't watch last night, and I think a lot of people didn't, this is what happened. Uh-oh. This is what happened.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say.
That's, you're right. That's Mike, that's a line that can be turned on you, isn't it? For political ads and for, for political fortunes.
Yeah, it'd be political malpractice for Vivek not to turn that around on her. I think that'd be pretty simple.
Did you watch the big debate last night?
I made an effort to not watch any of it. I knew it was going to be a show from the very beginning. With that many people on stage, it was pointless. And sure enough, what little I saw was just people yelling all over each other.
Yeah,
so it was a good move. Saved me 2 hours of grief.
Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of yelling over each other, and and I think the moderators didn't have firm control over the debaters or the debate. Everybody talking at once, and we had at times 3 of the candidates talking at once, talking over each other, and of course you really don't hear what anybody's saying, and it just becomes cacophonous and annoying. So I'm guessing a lot of people turned the channel during the debate, and politics. It's not like you can't catch up now, for example, and save yourself the grief of the 2 hours. Yeah, and wait till you hear this. The fraud perpetrated by these left-wing criminal judges and fakes that are trying to sink Donald Trump and take his business empire away from him because they have fascist tendencies and they have power, so they exercise their fascist tendencies and the lies that they told in trying to undermine him. Oh, you overvalued your properties. And we'll see what kind of crooks these people are. I've got that coming up for you. But right now, I think I would like to get to, and there are so many more that they've given me today, but I do want to get to the Republican debate last night and be done with it because, we'll make quick work of it, I think. And the Senate had a vote yesterday on Fetterman dressing like a drunk under a bridge, and that didn't go very well for Fetterman. But let's go to Donna calling from Frederick. Donna, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, good morning, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. I actually referenced you, your famous quote, "It's all a terrible TV show," yesterday when I spoke with Vince. And it turned out just as I expected. So at the end of I watched both debates. Trump was very informative and just forecast the future for those people, which I thought was really great, and I enjoyed what he had to say. On the flip side of that, the debate, oh my goodness. At the end, I think it was Dana said something like, in one word, how would you describe someone you want to cast off the stage? And that ended up being a big debacle. But my husband and I said to each other, how would we describe the debate in one word? And his was annoying, and mine was circus. Yeah. And that tells you everything you need to know.
Wow. Yeah, I got to say, you summed it up pretty well. You should probably be writing an article for one of America's major newspapers. And all I looked at today was the conservative papers. And that was generally the consensus, Donna, is that it wasn't the most helpful process, the most helpful event. And I like a number of the people on the stage last night. But the format and, you're right. It's all a terrible television show. And it's not just the debates. It's our entire political system has become a terrible cable television show. And it's all about ratings and, getting the soundbite that people are going to quote the next day and play on television the next day. And it's become a clownish television show where they're out for all the wrong things. The zinger. Oh, where are the zingers? Was there fire? Was there spark? It should be an intellectual process, a serious process. We have a great many serious issues facing the nation. There were some shots at Trump, but not like last time where they went after Trump in almost every sentence. And I just got to say, this was not a forum or a format where the serious issues, and there are a great many serious issues facing our nation, were really taken up in a substantive way. And I honestly think if you missed it, that's okay. That's okay. And President Trump, you're right. He was fun, and he was talking about matters of substance. He was talking about the issues. He was talking about the border. He was talking about crime. He was talking about things that matter and the economy and jobs. He's talking about the things that matter to the American people and you and I, Donna, because, we're the American people, aren't we?
Exactly. And, with that debate, to me, I kept hearing Dan Bongino's voice going, they want sound bites and snapshots.
Yeah.
And whatever happened to decorum? They lecture us on decorum. I didn't see any of that. The moderators were just atrocious to me. Sometimes I couldn't understand things. It was ridiculous.
You're right. There were problems with Stuart Varney's microphone throughout the evening, and there were problems with other people's microphones throughout the evening. So whoever was running the technical operation didn't do a good job. And it looked pretty, the Reagan Library and the old Air Force One hanging overhead, which is, incredible and beautiful, and Air Force 27,000, a wonderful location. But, you could, I would understand if you kind of shook your head and turned the channel halfway through, because whatever it was they were setting out to accomplish, I don't think they accomplished that.
No, they sunk their own battleship, in my opinion.
Exactly, you sunk my battleship, and you're right. They sunk their own battleship. It is our entire political system needs some serious help. Honestly, Donna, thank you for the call, and
thank you.
You have a lot of people agreeing with you out there. I know, I certainly know you do. So let's go to some audio, and there was a little bit. The Univision woman, whoever, was asking questions, and Ilia Calderon, of course, and she with Univision or Univision, and she was in there because nobody knows why exactly, because the Spanish-speaking population is growing, and so Fox News and the Republicans said, yeah, let's get the Spanish-speaking thing in there because who knows, you want to get the MS-13 vote and everything. Hey, I got an idea. Let's all speak English. It's the United States of America. But Barack Obama warned us that we all need to learn to speak Spanish because he's behind the fundamental transformation of America. Pretty amazing stuff. But Univision asked the question of Ron DeSantis about schools. That was a topic because, you want to try to hurt Ron DeSantis. And, what about what do you have anti-black lessons in the Florida school curriculum? No, you don't. Well, there were a lot of stupid things, but this was part of that. Ron DeSantis trying to sink his battleship.
Florida's new Black History curriculum says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. For descendants of slaves, this is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
They take all these phony narratives that they put out there, and somewhere buried in a book that may be available in a school, if it's transgender man on boy sex, then for first graders, then the Democrats are all in favor of it. But if there is a quote from a freed slave, freed by the Republicans, he should point that out too. From the Democrats, he should point that out too. In what we call the Civil War, and then freed slaves, one quoted in one book somewhere with one sentence, said, a lot of people learn skills in bondage that they then took to freedom. And if you say that, then the media and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, demonize you for years, even though you didn't do it. It's an African-American scholar put together a book quoting a slave freed by the Republicans from the Democrats, and it's used against you as a Republican because that's our news media, which is just horrible and corrupt and terrible, and the most corrupt institution in the United States of America. But she wasn't done with Florida and schools because they believe this can hurt Ron DeSantis.
We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights. We enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989.
The critical race theory, which is the radical left's indoctrination of children to teach them that the United States is a racist country. The Democrat Party is a racist party. They don't teach that. They're the Klan. They stood in schoolhouse doors. They used dogs and fire hoses to attack the civil rights marchers and all that good stuff. But that's the Democrat Party. And why these Republicans don't respond with that every time? They need me to advise them for millions of dollars. That's pretty amazing stuff. Now, Ron DeSantis also took a shot at President Trump last night, really basically for not being on the debate stage with everything, because you know what it does to ratings.
Where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership.
That's true.
And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He should be here explaining his comments to try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time.
Now, that was one of, and there were several instances, moments taking shots at Trump. Who was it? I think it was Vivek Ramaswamy who said he's observing Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, which I heard somebody on Fox News yesterday call the first commandment. But okay, he meant to say 11th commandment, and that is never speak ill of another Republican. Well, that rule is all gone now, isn't it? Speaking of Chris Christie, he was there, and he is forever taking shots at President Trump, of course.
Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room.
He put $7 trillion on the debt. I mean, overwhelmingly, that that had to do with the Wuhan Red Death coming along. Couple of stories out today about how involved the United States was with the Wuhan Red Death and the Wuhan Institute of Virology and Anthony Fauci and what is it? I got the big refrigerator magnet the other day from friend says Fauci is my new F word. A picture of Anthony Fauci says Fauci is my new F word. And it's kind of fun. And then I discovered that my refrigerator door is not exactly magnetic, which is sort of weird. Why is that? It's aluminum or something like that, so it's non-magnetic. But I saw that, and it's a fun one. It is. Your first fridge magnet. And it was, and it's my friend. It is my first fridge magnet. I'm not a big collector of fridge magnets, but that's okay. It's a fun thing because Fauci is my new F word. Ha ha ha. That's pretty funny, I've got to say. Yeah, and that was Jen and Jeff. Jeff and Jen sent me the fun refrigerator. It's not a little one. It's like the size of like that. It's like 8 inches by 4 inches with Fauci on it, and it says Fauci is my latest F word, and that's kind of funny. Fauci grabbing his forehead, and then there's a story about the CIA's involvement in the Wuhan Red Death too. They should probably release those Kennedy assassination documents and get back on track a little bit. The CIA, they've got thousands of documents that Congress passed a law ordering the CIA to release them years and years ago, and they still haven't. And nobody knows why. So they just leave us to wonder. And then Chris Christie delivered what I thought, what he thought was going to be his line of the night. And I think he must have gotten it from a kid on a school bus.
Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Yeah, we can call you Donald Duck. Because you ducked and your name is Donald, so we're going to call you Donald Duck. It was pretty lame, I've got to say. And then he made up a falsehood, Chris Christie, a big whopping long belt falsehood.
Donald Trump failed on this as well. He said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it. Guess what? I think if Mexico knew that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Except he built 458 miles, which is not 52 miles. But, that you just shouldn't make stuff up like that. That even the fake New York Times had to confess that President Trump built 458 miles of border wall. But the truth, if the truth doesn't matter to Chris Christie, I'm telling you, our politicians, our political leadership, and the madness in American cities, just ridiculous falsehoods and stuff. I got to tell you that this guy, Doug Burgum, he's governor, and he's a very wealthy man. He got very wealthy in started a tech business and became very, very wealthy, and God bless him. It's a great American story. He was on the stage last night, and I think that he got the least time. Did he get the least time of everyone there? He had a good moment, I thought, when Doug Burgum, he's the governor of North Dakota, beautiful North Dakota, where normal people live. And they elected this guy governor. And last night, he had a couple of things. I was listening to him, and I thought, that was a pretty good job by him.
The reason why people are striking in Detroit is because Joe Biden's interference with capital markets and with free markets. The subsidies, we're subsidizing the automakers and we're subsidizing the cars and a particular kind of car, not every car. We're subsidizing electric vehicles. And when you decide that we're going to take all of your taxpayer monies, take $1 billion, subsidize a certain type of vehicle, and the batteries come from China. China controls 85% of the rare earth minerals. They're called rare earth because they're measured in parts per million. China is moving 100,000 pounds of earth in Indonesia, in Africa. They're literally destroying the planet so that they can make a battery that's in a car subsidized here. That's why they're striking, because they need 2/3 less workers to build an electric car. Joe Biden, this strike is at Joe Biden's feet.
Murmur. A lot of murmuring. Last night, Vivek Ramaswamy got the most airtime, more than 12 minutes. DeSantis, number 2, slightly more than 12 minutes. Tim Scott with 11 and almost 12 minutes. Nikki Haley, 10 minutes, 42 seconds. Chris Christie with less than 9.5 minutes. Mike Pence, 9 minutes, 11 seconds. And Doug Burgum with that good line about that stuff got 8 minutes, the least time of all. But only between 8 minutes and 12 minutes for each candidate. And how long was that thing? It was it was something. It was something to see. We got a lot of Democrat violence and crime and rioting and mayhem. And, you know, it's a day of the week. Ah, yes. And Democrat crime stories everywhere. They love crime. Your Democrat Party is your party of more crime. Extraordinary. We have President Trump for you coming up as well, because, you know, he's always President Trump, isn't he? And he comes out and he's relaxed and he's comfortable in his own skin, and he says what he wants, and he's unafraid, and he goes after the nutcases, and it's very refreshing, which is why so many people like him so much. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Drew, calling from Baltimore, Maryland. Drew, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking my call, sir. Love your show, both shows.
Thank you.
Just want to make a comment about the debate last night. Nobody brought up the fact that they've got the president, going after the leading Republican candidate, suing them, trying to put them in jail. And do any of these people think that machine's not going to be turned against them? I mean, how naive are they to just dismiss what's going on completely? We don't resolve that. It doesn't matter who's a president, whether they're Republican or whatever.
You're talking about the Department of Justice and the FBI and prosecutors in New York and in Georgia and in Washington impaneling grand juries of Democrats to gin up charges and claim that he committed fraud by falsely claiming that his properties were worth more than they're actually worth. Is that the hit job you're talking about there, Drew? I think it is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's it. And you're right. And, when you're a Republican, you get massacred by the press, and then you get that treatment.